Cannabis through time, ancient Greece and China. The history of cannabis reveals a compound relationship between plant and culture. Among the many ancient civilizations, both China and Greece utilized cannabis as a useful plant, but the cultural, medicinal, and spiritual uses of the plant differed. In ancient China, cannabis, also known as ma, was heavily utilized in medical and spiritual life. However, in ancient Greece, its use remained mainly utilitarian, with medical and limited spiritual or psychoactive purposes. Cannabis, one of the earliest plants utilized in ancient China, was described as a medicinal plant with both yin and yang properties, used to maintain and restore balance in the body. The cannabis seeds were also eaten for healthful purposes, and the cannabis stems were also used for production for practical items such as in making clothes. In China, Mother of Gardens, Ernest Henry Wilson emphasizes the widespread cultivation of hemp, stating that it was grown almost universally throughout the country for the making of cloth, cordage, and nets. Other than its practical uses, cannabis in China held spiritual significance. According to Miyato, in the religious and medicinal uses of cannabis in China, India, and Tibet, it is stated that if taken in excess, it will produce hallucinations, also known as literally seeing devils. If taken over a long time, it makes one to communicate with spirits, suggesting psychoactive applications in ritual contexts. There is also ancient texts that discuss the production of cannabis sativa that can be found on scrolls such as the Memorandum on the Production of Yellow Hemp and the size of certain private holdings. This indicates how far along the use of cannabis has been known, as well as how they produced cannabis in ancient China. In contrast, the role of cannabis in ancient Greece was markedly different. Greek medical texts such as Dioscorides de Materia Medica and Galen's writing mention cannabis primarily in external medicinal context. The seeds were used to treat earaches, inflammation, and gastrointestinal discomfort. As Theodor Brunner notes in Marijuana in Ancient Greece and Rome, the literary evidence, the use of cannabis is sparse and mostly medicinal, with little to no mention of spiritual or psychoactive uses. While Greek history shows that Greek society had a tradition of mind-altering rituals, particularly with the use of alcohol, cannabis does not seem to have played a prime role in these religious practices. Adam Sumler emphasizes that while cannabis was not unknown in ancient Greek medicine, it was not important for pharmaceutical purposes. He writes that the Greeks had access to cannabis and occasionally used it medicinally, but their primary psychoactive substances remained wine and opium. This distinction is significant. Where the Chinese incorporated cannabis into a holy worldview of balance and energetic healing, the Greeks approached it with a more clinical focus. These differences showcase cultural differences. In ancient China, medical ideals were deeply intertwined with spiritual ideas. The dualism of yin and yang shaped the interpretation of all natural substances, including cannabis. In contrast, Greek medicine, particularly in the post-Hippocratic era, emphasized humoral theory and empirical observation, reducing cannabis to one of the many substances with specific, measurable effects. In conclusion, while both ancient China and ancient Greece recognized the value of cannabis, they purposed that the value through different ideas. In ancient China, cannabis is part of a broader spiritual and medical tradition that utilized its psychoactive and anesthetic purposes. In Greece, it was a medical tool used mainly for its external therapeutic applications between the two ancient worlds. In this one plant, they both developed a legacy for cannabis that is still under discovery in today's world. Looking through the differences of the purpose of cannabis in both countries, it is noted that cannabis has lingered in the presence with humanity through centuries.